A janitor moves quietly through the break room, his frame thin, his steps careful. In his hands rests a single lunchbox, the only meal he owns that day. He does not eat it. He slides it into an old refrigerator marked for donations, closing the door with a trembling hand. Moments later, children rush in, eyes glowing as they discover the food. They tear open the box with joy, laughter echoing through the silence. Behind them, the janitor turns away, his stomach growling, but his lips bend into a small, tired smile. Then a voice cuts through the air, sharp and cruel. "Move faster. Worthless." The janitor flinches. Another worker sneers, shaking his head as if the sacrifice meant nothing. Hunger, cruelty, and kindness collide in one breath. And this is where the truth begins, where one man's quiet choice will expose everything hidden. The new janitor steps inside, wearing a uniform that does not fit his stature. The fabric hangs stiff on his shoulders, his forehead already damp with sweat. His eyes dart around as if searching for permission to exist. A few workers glance up from their tasks, their stares quick, suspicious, then gone. But the weight of judgment lingers. At the front, Ellery narrows his eyes. His lips pull tight as he spits the words, "Do the job or get out." The room falls into a hush. The janitor, Harlan, swallows hard, biting his lip. He lowers his head and grips the mop handle with both hands. A lifetime of authority hidden beneath borrowed clothes vanishes into silence. He pushes forward, choosing humility over pride, though every glance cuts deep. From the very first step, he is not a man of respect here, but a burden, an outsider. Ellery wastes no time. He points toward the busiest corner of the store, a place buzzing with chatter and footsteps. There, he commands. Harlan drags the mop forward, each movement clumsy, the pole slipping from his damp grip. Water splashes across the tiles, streaks spreading like ink on paper. A child tugs her mother's sleeve, whispering. The mother frowns, glaring down at the puddle. Another man steps around with a muttered curse. Harlan's chest tightens. Then Ellery's voice cracks the air. "Pathetic. Can't even clean a floor." Heads turn. Conversations pause. For a moment, every eye in the room rests on him. He feels the burn of humiliation under their stares, yet he forces himself to keep moving, dragging the mop in slow, uneven strokes. His jaw clenches, eyes flashing for a second, then dimming again. This is his first burden here, not labor, but public disgrace. As Harlan struggles, another figure enters quietly. Thin shoulders, tired hands, eyes soft despite the weight they carry. Thad kneels beside the puddle, picking up the mop Harlan nearly dropped. Without a word, he wipes the spill, moving with practiced grace. When he looks up, there is no scorn in his expression, only a weary smile. "Don't worry, everyone starts like this." His voice is gentle, breaking the tension without demanding thanks. Harlan pauses, struck not by the act but by the kindness buried within it. For a fleeting second, his disguise falters under the pull of genuine warmth. From the corner, Cressida watches, shaking her head. He's always like that, helping even when no one notices. Her words hover in the air, neither praise nor complaint, but a truth carried by time. Harlan glances back at Thad, and a seed of curiosity takes root. Who is this man who chooses kindness over complaint? The break room fills with the clatter of lunchboxes, the warm scent of food drifting through the air. Workers unwrap sandwiches, pour drinks, laughter echoing across the tables. At the edge of the room sits Thad, apart from the noise, a closed lunchbox resting untouched before him. His hands fold neatly on top of it as if guarding an empty secret. Joran leans back in his chair, smirking. Not hungry again. Or maybe you just like watching the rest of us eat. A ripple of laughter follows. Thad answers with a small shrug, his smile faint but steady, as though denying himself was nothing new. Harlan's gaze sharpens. From across the room he notices Thad's stomach tighten, the faint rumble betraying his silence. The sound gnaws at him, heavier than any insult. Then Cressida sighs, voice low but clear. He's always like that. The words hang in the air, simple, undeniable, leaving Harlan with the weight of a mystery. Why does a man starve so quietly so often? Joran seizes the silence, grinning as he points at Thad's untouched lunchbox. What's the plan? Old man skipping meals to slim down. The remark draws snickers from the nearby table. Thad lifts his head only slightly, lips curling into a faint smile that shields more than it reveals. He says nothing, and that nothing echoes louder than words could. Joran chuckles louder, tilting his chin high, lifting his own overflowing plate into the air as though it were a crown. red meat sauce, everything Thad does not have paraded like a trophy. Around them, the laughter swells, feeding on the cruelty. Harlan feels his fist close tight beneath the table nails digging into his palm. His face remains blank, but the spark in his eyes betrays the fight he is forcing down. The room buzzes with the bitter taste of injustice. Thad lowers his gaze again, the quiet target of a cruelty he refuses to return. Later, as the shift resumes, a soft thud breaks the rhythm. Thad's wallet slips from his pocket, landing open on the dull floor. Harlan bends instinctively to pick it up, but his eyes catch before his hand does. Inside lies a photograph, edges bent, colors faded. Children stare out from the picture, their clothes threadbare, smiles fragile but bright. The image is old, yet alive with unspoken stories. Thad snatches the wallet back too quickly, slipping it shut with trembling fingers. He forces a chuckle. Clumsy me. But the chuckle cracks at the edges, failing to hide the panic in his eyes. For a brief second, his mask slips, and the truth leaks through. Harlan straightens, slowly unsettled. He studies the man's weary face, the tight grip around that worn leather, the way he shields it as if it were the last thing he owns. Doubt sharpens into suspicion. What life is. Thad concealing behind that broken wallet. The day is not halfway gone when Ellery calls everyone together. His voice rises above the hum of machines, sharp and punishing. Numbers are falling. Output is weak. Anyone dragging us down will pay for it. The words hit the room like stones. Workers lower their heads, staring at the floor as though eye contact might invite punishment. A pen scratches steadily against paper. Miles recording every detail without expression, as if lives were columns to be measured. Thad bows slightly, a small nod of obedience, his silence thicker than words. No protest, no defense, only surrender. Harlan watches from the edge, the mop still in his hand, his chest tightening. The air feels thinner, every breath a struggle. What he sees is not leadership, but fear manufactured as discipline. The injustice presses against him, heavy and suffocating, and he realizes this is not an exception, it is the rule. After the meeting, Harlan studies Thad more closely. The man never complains, never raises his voice, yet his actions speak in quiet gestures. When a coworker wipes sweat from his forehead with a sleeve, Thad slips over, offering a clean cloth he carries in his pocket. When a younger employee fumbles with heavy boxes, Thad removes his gloves and presses them into the boy's hands. "Take these," he murmurs, then lifts the weight himself. No one cheers, no one claps. The kindness dissolves into the air unnoticed, but Harlan sees it all. He stands in silence, watching the pattern unfold, each moment small but undeniable. Empathy begins to form, not out of pity, but out of respect for the resilience wrapped in humility. The janitor is not simply enduring hardship, he is protecting others from it. And in Harlan's chest an unfamiliar ache stirs, quiet but growing. Lunch comes again. Once more, Thad sits in the corner with his unopened box. His head tilts down, shoulders rounded as though shrinking from notice. Harlan watches a thought clawing at him. This cannot be habit. No one chooses hunger every day. He grips the mop tighter, unsettled. Joran strolls by, lips curling. Some things he'll never admit, some truths he'll never share. The words drip with mockery, but beneath them lies something darker, knowledge unspoken. The room grows still. Forks pause in midair, eyes glance sideways but quickly retreat. Silence stretches uneasy, leaving the moment hanging. Harlan's mind races, questions multiplying. Why does a man hide hunger as though it were shame? What sacrifice is buried behind that smile? The air itself feels suspended, unfinished, inviting the listener into the gap. The mystery deepens, unresolved, pulling everyone closer to the heart of Thad's secret. The hum of machinery falters as the vacuum sputters, then dies. A frayed cord dangles uselessly, the silence sharper than noise. Joran is quick, pointing without hesitation. It was him. He probably yanked it like a fool and broke the line. The words cut through the air, heavy with certainty, though no proof exists. Miles, stern and cold, steps forward, clipboard in hand. He does not question, does not test. He simply marks a line, the ink sealing Thad's fate. No defense is offered. Thad lowers his gaze, hands folded, his lips closed against words that might save him. The accusation becomes fact in a single stroke. Around them, co-workers exchange glances, no one daring to speak. Harlan feels his pulse quicken, fury clawing at his throat. Yet the janitor bears it quietly, as though blame were his native language. Injustice lands heavy, leaving a bruise that all can see. Harlan sees it all, the false accusation, the careless judgment, the silence forced upon a man undeserving. His chest burns. The words rise, ready to burst free to shield Thad from the weight pressed onto his shoulders. But he stops. His role chains him disguised, demanding restraint. His hand closes into a fist, nails digging into flesh, grounding his anger in pain. Across the room, Thad lifts his head, a weak smile flickering at the corners of his mouth. He shakes his head slightly, a gesture not of defeat, but of warning. Don't. The moment is heavier than shouting, heavier than violence. The janitor accepts blame. He did not earn carrying it the way others carry tools. The air thickens heavy and suffocating, pressing down on everyone present. Harlan's silence is a wound chosen necessary, yet unbearable. He watches, powerless, as dignity is stolen in plain sight. The break bell rings and laughter fills the cafeteria. Workers unwrap sandwiches, stacked high trays, steaming with comfort. At a corner table, Thad opens his box. Inside rests a small crust of bread, hard at the edges, barely enough for a child, let alone a man. He breaks it in two, placing one half carefully back as if saving something that cannot be spared. The other piece he raises to his mouth, chewing slowly, smiling faintly as though flavor exists where there is none. Joran leans back, smirking. That all you've got? Think crumbs will keep you standing. Laughter scatters again, sharp and careless. Thad swallows eyes, calm his silence, a shield. Across the room, Harlan grips the edge of his tray. His throat tightens, words stuck behind clenched teeth. He cannot bear the sight, a man mocked for his hunger disguising sacrifice as appetite. Compassion swells into pain, undeniable, unshakable. Harlan follows at a distance, his steps, careful curiosity sharpening into unease. Thad carries a plain plastic bag, its sides sagging with leftover food scraped together from the day. He slips through the back door into the narrow lot behind the store. Before Harlan can question, children appear, thin arms, eager eyes, clothes hanging loose from worn shoulders. They rush forward, voices bubbling with relief as the bag opens. Breadfruit bruised but precious is handed out like treasure. Tiny hands clutch each piece, their faces glowing as though a feast had been laid before them. Thank you, they whisper again and again, bowing, smiling through hunger. Thad kneels, brushing hair from a little boy's forehead, his own stomach groaning audibly in the quiet. Yet his face carries only tenderness, as if feeding them has already filled him. In this hidden corner, sacrifice is revealed in its purest form. Pressed against the wall, Harlan's heart pounds, each beat louder than the laughter of the children he watches. The truth crashes into him with unbearable clarity. This man is starving himself to keep strangers alive. His mind races. How long has this been happening? How many nights endured without food, so these children might smile? Their joy is raw, their bellies still empty, yet they laugh as if hunger has no hold. Harlan grips his hand into a fist, veins rising along his arm, nails cutting skin. He cannot unsee it. This is no rumor, no exaggeration. It is sacrifice lived out in silence. He feels small, exposed, as though his disguise hides him from nothing at all. For the first time he realizes the job has shown him not incompetence or laziness, but quiet heroism no one else has dared to notice. The truth, now witnessed, cannot be denied. Later, during the break, Cressida leans closer, voice low, almost secret. He's been doing this for years, she murmurs, eyes fixed on Thad across the room. He skips meals so the kids down the street don't go hungry. Harlan tilts his head, feigning surprise, though the knowledge burns through him. He nods slowly, swallowing the storm inside. Cressida's gaze softens, filled with something between sorrow and admiration. She watches Thad sit alone, fingers idly tracing the rim of his empty cup, as if even water were something to savor. Across the room, Joran snickers under his breath, a sharp reminder that cruelty still lingers. But Cressida's words anchor what Harlan has seen. This sacrifice is not chance, not accident, but deliberate, constant. The janitor is not unlucky. He is chosen by his own compassion, condemned by his own kindness. And in that revelation, pity turns into deeper respect. The group is summoned, and Miles's voice cuts through the air, low yet merciless. Production is down this week. Anyone slowing us down will lose wages. The statement lands like a hammer. No space for explanation, no room for mercy. His eyes sweep across the line of workers, cold, calculating until they pause deliberately on Thad. The silence grows louder with that single glance. Thad bows his head quickly, shoulders shrinking as if to absorb the accusation without sound. Harlan grips the rag in his hand, twisting it tight, water dripping onto the floor unnoticed. The air itself feels taut, stretched to the point of snapping. No one speaks, no one resists. Fear has been drilled so deep it has become second nature. What surrounds them is not management, it is control, unyielding and inhuman. And Harlan realizes that this place feeds on silence as much as it does on labor. The break room buzzes with chatter when Joran pulls out his phone. His grin is wide, cruel as he turns the camera toward Thad's modest table. "Look at this. The fancy lunch of our hero janitor," he jeers. The lens captures a nearly empty plate, crumbs that barely count as food. Heat floods Thad's cheeks, his face turning red. He turns away, shoulders curling inward, but the laughter builds around him, fueled by mockery. Snickers rise, a chorus of ridicule bouncing off the walls. Joran tilts his phone higher, narrating every detail with exaggerated delight. Harlan's blood rushes hot, his heart thudding against his ribs. He watches fury rising, every muscle in his body demanding he put an end to it. The camera keeps rolling, the laughter keeps spreading, and the moment hardens into something that will not be forgotten. What feels like cruelty to some will soon become proof to all. The words burst out before he can stop them. Stop filming him. The break room falls silent. Heads whip around. Joran lowers the phone, stunned for a beat, then sneers. Ellery's glare slices through the quiet. "What did you just say?" The room waits. The tension coiled and dangerous. Harlan drops his gaze, quickly, voice stumbling. "Sorry, I spoke out of turn." His disguise holds by a thread. Joran snorts, leaning back in his chair. "Why defend him? What's he to you?" The question hangs in the air, suspicion dripping from every syllable. For a moment it seems the mask will crack. Then Thad rests a hand gently on Harlan's shoulder, shaking his head with the faintest smile. The gesture is small, but it speaks volumes. Silence is safer. The room resumes its noise, yet Harlan feels the narrow escape. He is closer to exposure than he has ever been. Ellery drags Harlan to the back, pointing at a crate stacked twice as high as the rest. "Carry it. Now." The weight is merciless. Harlan bends arms, straining, knees trembling. He staggers forward, balance tipping the floor, tilting under his steps. The box threatens to crush him. Then a hand shoots out Thad, rushing to steady the load, his frame even thinner yet unhesitating. Together they hold it upright. Ellery's voice lashes out. "What is this, a comedy act? Do the job or get out?" Laughter breaks from the sidelines loud. Cruel, a chorus feeding on humiliation. Harlan lowers his head, his pride burning in silence. Rage seethes inside him, not for the pain of his back, but for the scorn hurled so easily. For the first time he tastes the bitterness of being dismissed, measured not by effort, but by failure. And in Thad's quiet grip he feels the weight of shared injustice. The warehouse is cluttered boxes, stacked like fragile towers. A single shift of balance sends one crashing down, bursting across the floor. Joran's voice pierces the commotion instantly. "Thad, look what you've done." The accusation rings without pause, a reflex honed by cruelty. Miles strides forward, clipboard ready, his pen, scratching punishment before truth can speak. No questions, no fairness, just another mark against the quiet man. Thad bends without protest, gathering the spilled goods with steady hands. Dust clings to his arms, his shirt damp with sweat. He absorbs the shame like a sponge, giving nothing back. Around them, workers avert their eyes, unwilling to challenge the ritual. Harlan watches fury flooding his chest, every nerve urging him to shout. But he holds still, forced to swallow the sight of dignity trampled once more. Injustice is no longer occasional, it is routine, repeated until it becomes invisible. The hours stretch long, unbroken, the demands unrelenting. Thad moves slower now, sweat dripping freely, his breath shallow. His steps waver as though the floor shifts beneath him. The mop slips from his trembling hand, clattering against the tiles. A chuckle cuts the silence. Joran's voice drips with mockery. "Face it, old man. Time to quit." The words sting sharper than laughter. Thad forces a smile, one that falters before it forms. He bends again, fingers shaking as they grasp the handle. His body cries for rest, yet he pushes forward as if quitting would betray more than himself. Harlan's eyes lock onto him, the ache in his chest tightening. This is not laziness, not weakness. It is exhaustion. Carried too long, born in silence. For the first time, unease replaces anger. The audience of co-workers may still mock, but beneath the ridicule rises a quiet fear. How much longer can he endure? The sound comes sudden and sharp, a heavy thud against the floor. Thad crumples his body, folding as if struck down by an unseen hand. The mop clatters away, rolling across wet tiles, water splashing outward in messy arcs. For a moment, the room freezes. Workers stare eyes wide as though the collapse were contagious. A few step back, unease tightening their faces. Then Miles's voice slices through the shock enough of this act. Get up. Now. His tone carries no concern, only suspicion. But Thad does not move. His chest rises weakly, each breath shallow, fragile, almost lost in the silence. Time slows every second, stretching the image of a man who has given too much lying on the ground. The janitor, once invisible, becomes impossible to ignore. And in that silence, outrage simmers. What has been endured in shadows now demands to be seen. Harlan drops beside him, knees pressing against the slick floor. He grips Thad's shoulder, shaking gently. He needs rest. The words break from his throat, raw, unpolished, unstoppable. Thad's eyelids flutter but remain heavy, his skin pale beneath sweat. Miles's glare cuts sharp. You stay out of this. Get back to work. Authority wraps his voice in steel, daring defiance. Harlan's heart slams in his chest, each beat louder than the jeers, louder than fear. His disguise weighs on him like chains, pressing him down, reminding him of the silence he has kept. But he inhales deeply, drawing in the courage he has denied himself until now. His hands clench tighter, not in restraint but in readiness. Around him, the room waits still as a held breath. He knows the choice before him: retreat into safety or step into truth. And for the first time, retreat is no longer possible. All eyes converge on him, suspicion and curiosity mingling into a single gaze. Harlan rises slowly, the weight of decision heavy on his chest. He sweeps his eyes across the room, faces frozen in disbelief, some sneering, some fearful, all waiting. His voice cracks slightly, not from weakness but from the gravity of what he holds back. I can't stay silent anymore. The words slice through the tension, splitting the air. Joran shifts uncomfortably, brows furrowing as he steps back, his smirk faltering. Ellery stiffens pen, halting mid-stroke. The silence that follows is deafening, every second winding tighter like a spring ready to break. What comes next is inevitable, unstoppable, yet unknown. The room is suspended on the edge of revelation, anticipation, hanging like thunderclouds about to burst. The conflict that has stretched so long teeters at its climax. The only question left is how violently it will break. The silence stretches until Harlan breaks it. His hands rise to the buttons of his uniform, undoing them slowly, deliberately. Fabric falls away, the disguise collapsing piece by piece. The plain shirt beneath looks unfamiliar, too clean, too deliberate for a janitor. Gasps ripple through the room. Eyes widen. Joran's jaw drops, his smirk erased in an instant. Miles stares, stunned, his pen frozen above the clipboard. The truth stands uncovered before them. Harlan straightens his shoulders, his voice carrying without effort. My name is Harlan, and I've seen everything. The words land heavy, undeniable, stripping away the last remnants of his cover. A man they mocked now towers over them, not by height, but by truth. In that moment, the powerless janitor disappears. The one who remains is the man with authority, knowledge, and judgment. The revelation shakes the ground beneath their feet, leaving no room for denial. The room erupts in whispers, a tide of voices crashing together in disbelief. Some workers clutch their mouths, their eyes wide as if reality itself had fractured. One woman breaks down, tears streaking her face, the release of fear too heavy to hold. Joran trembles, his bravado, shattered color draining until his skin turns pale. Cressida clasps her hands tightly against her chest, eyes glistening with something like hope, like relief. Miles forces a breath, shoulders stiffening, but beads of sweat betray the mask he tries to keep. No one laughs now. No one dares. The balance of power has flipped in a single instant. The man who swept floors now holds the authority to sweep away excuses. The weight of their actions presses back on them, every cruel word, every sneer, every order echoing louder than ever. What once passed unseen now demands to be faced, and no one can hide. Harlan's voice rises, sharp as steel, each word deliberate. He points directly at Joran. I saw you mock him. You laughed while he starved. Joran flinches, shrinking back, unable to summon defense. Harlan turns eyes, locking on Miles. I heard you dismiss your men, treating them like machines, not people. The words slice deeper than any shout. Miles swallows a throat-dry clipboard shaking faintly in his grip. The room holds its breath. Even Ellery, once quick to command, lowers his head silent, afraid to meet his gaze. Every syllable is a blade cutting through years of unspoken pain, exposing what has lived in shadows. Harlan does not yell. He does not need to. His calm fury burns hotter than anger, undeniable in its precision. The truth falls heavy across the room, pressing down on every heart. No one escapes its weight, and silence becomes their only shield. Harlan raises a phone, its screen glowing in his hand. This clip, you meant it as a joke, a way to humiliate him. His thumb presses play. The room fills with images, Thad sitting at the table, a half-empty box before him, quietly turning away from Joran's taunts. The laughter recorded in the background now feels cruel, almost unbearable. Then the scene shifts Thad outside, handing food to children whose smiles light up the frame. Their voices rise innocent and joyful gratitude echoing as they clutch scraps of bread. The sound is not ridicule, but the laughter of children who have known hunger and found mercy in a stranger's hands. The room falls silent. Every eye fixes on the screen, every heart struck by the truth hidden in plain sight. What was meant to shame now shines as proof of sacrifice, and suddenly the mockery becomes evidence of heroism. All eyes turn to Joran. His face burns crimson, the smirk that once shielded him gone. He lowers his head, shoulders hunched, trembling under the weight of his own cruelty. The words he once spoke so easily, sharp, mocking, venomous, return now as accusations against himself. The workers watch in silence, their stares heavy with disdain. For years he had laughed, had pointed, had enjoyed the spectacle of another's pain. Now that laughter tastes like ash. I didn't know, he stammers, but the excuse withers before it leaves his mouth. No one believes him. No one offers comfort. The man who fed scorn is left to swallow it whole. Harlan keeps his eyes on him, steady, unflinching, yet says nothing more. The silence cuts deeper than words could. In that moment, Joran is exposed not by force but by truth, and the shame clings to him like a second skin. A faint stir interrupts the silence. Thad's eyes flutter open, unfocused at first, then wide with confusion as he sees the circle of faces around him. He shifts weak, trying to rise, but Harlan kneels quickly, taking his hand. "It's different now," he says softly, voice steady, almost tender. "Everything has changed." Thad blinks, his lips trembling. I don't understand." His body is frail, but the weight of care pressing on him feels heavier than the labor he has borne. A tear slips down his cheek, cutting a thin path through the dust on his skin. For the first time, he is not invisible. He is seen not as a burden, but as the man he truly is. Around them, silence deepens, charged with awe. His sacrifice, once hidden, has become undeniable. And in that fragile moment, the story's heart beats louder than any voice. The room waits in silence, the weight of confession pressing in. Harlan breathes deeply, steadying himself before the words come. "I was once like you," he says, his eyes fixed on Thad. Poor, hungry, a boy who skipped meals so his younger brother could eat. A gasp ripples through the room, sharp and involuntary. He continues, voice low but resolute. "I know the sting of an empty stomach. I know the shame of pretending you're not hungry. And I know what it means to give everything for someone else." The words settle like stones in water, sinking deep, sending ripples outward. Some workers bow their heads, shoulders shaking. Others press hands to their faces, tears breaking through barriers long held. For a moment, the line between leader and laborer disappears. Harlan is not the owner, not the boss he is. One of them shaped by the same scars, the same hunger. Harlan lifts his head, his voice stronger now, carrying not just memory but decision. No more silence. From today, we start a fund meal for kids. Every child who goes hungry will have food every single day. The words ignite the room. He goes on, steady but passionate. Thad's children, and every child like them, will have their school paid for. No more choosing between education and survival. And for all of you, your wages will rise. Your work will be honored, not ignored. For a heartbeat, the room stands still as though disbelief holds them frozen. Then the dam bursts. Cries of joy break out, voices, raised hands covering faces as tears stream openly. Relief collides with gratitude, filling the space until it trembles with emotion. A company that once suffocated its people breathes, for the first time, the promise of justice, stronger than any order. The wave of feeling sweeps through the workers like a tide. Some fall into each other's arms, sobbing with release. Years of quiet endurance pour out at once. Joran lowers his head, shame bending his frame, his voice breaking into apology no one asked for. Cressida wipes her cheeks, smiling through the blur of tears, her relief visible at last. Miles stands stiff throat tight, unable to lift his gaze, his authority reduced to dust before compassion. And at the center, Thad grips Harlan's hand with trembling fingers, unable to speak his eyes, saying more than words could. The connection is raw, binding, undeniable. In that room, barriers collapse. The workers are no longer divided by rank or role, but united by something far more human. Sacrifice has turned to recognition, cruelty to repentance, silence to a chorus of shared emotion. What began in shadows now floods the entire company with light. The room quiets as Thad gathers his breath. His voice trembles, broken by years of silence, finally finding release. "I never thought anyone noticed me," he whispers, the weight of invisibility hanging in every syllable. He pauses, swallowing hard before continuing. "If even one child goes to bed without hunger, then I have eaten enough." The words fall heavy, simple, yet immeasurable in depth. The silence that follows is not empty, it is reverence. No one dares to interrupt. A sob breaks from the corner, followed by another. Shoulders shake, faces are hidden in hands. The rawness of his truth pierces deeper than any order or speech could. Harlan bows his head, not in pity, but in honor, acknowledging a man whose strength has been built on sacrifice. For the first time, Thad's suffering becomes voice, and that voice reshapes the hearts of everyone who hears it. Harlan rises, his presence steady the room, hanging on the promise of his words. A company is not measured by profit. He begins his tone, clear, unflinching. It is measured by the compassion of its smallest people. The statement cuts against everything they have been taught, yet it feels undeniable. Heads begin to nod slowly at first, then firmly, the truth sinking deep. Tears slide down, faces not from sorrow alone, but from the recognition of a new possibility. The air, once heavy with fear, shifts. It carries hope, faint but real, glimmering like a spark that refuses to die. The walls that once echoed with orders now hold the sound of agreement, a unity not built on fear, but on shared humanity. Harlan looks across the faces of his workers and sees not employees, not ranks or files, but people. And for the first time, they see him too. Days later, the promise takes form. In a simple hall, Harlan and Thad sit among children whose laughter fills the air like music. Plates of steaming rice and warm bread pass from hand to hand, each dish accepted with wide eyes and grateful smiles. The children eat eagerly, crumbs clinging to their lips, joy bubbling louder than words. Thad watches his gaze, soft, the lines of weariness replaced by light. He turns to Harlan, eyes shimmering with something unspoken. "Thank you," he murmurs, voice breaking, yet whole. Harlan shakes his head gently as if to say the thanks belongs elsewhere. Around them, the scene is more than charity, it is transformation. Hunger does not vanish in a day, but for this moment, hope sits at the table warm and undeniable. The sacrifice that once left Thad empty now returns to him multiplied, filling not just stomachs, but spirits. News outlets pick up the story headlines, carrying it far beyond the company walls. The clip Joran once filmed in mockery now floods the internet, reshared with reverence. Comments pour in, strangers confessing tears, others recalling their own hunger, many calling Thad a hero. One line repeats beneath thousands of posts, a quiet man, a true hero in plain sight. The narrative transforms him from janitor to simple proof that sacrifice does not need a stage to matter. Inspiration spreads faster than cruelty ever did, turning shame into a banner of dignity held high for the world to see. The voice turns outward, leaving the room, reaching the listener directly. Have you ever given your share so another could eat? The question lingers heavy, intimate. Another follows. If you see yourself in this story, leave just one line, "I was there too." The invitation is gentle, yet it carries weight, pressing into conscience. A pause, brief, deliberate, lets the silence echo. The words remain suspended, not demanding, but haunting. It is not only Thad's story anymore, it is everyone's, waiting for each person to decide what they will do with it. And the answer begins with a single response. But this is not the end. The words linger, carrying both closure and promise. The journey of kindness has only just begun. A new name surfaces, whispered, hinting at another story waiting in the shadows, another sacrifice yet unseen. The room that once held fear now carries a seed of anticipation as though compassion itself has opened a door that cannot be shut. The chapter closes gently, but the echo remains, urging the listener to wonder whose story will be told next, and how far can the ripple of one man's sacrifice truly reach.